In today's fast-paced world, hustle culture has turned into a race where everyone's running on fumes, glorifying the never-ending chase for success. Sure, the hustle might seem like the golden ticket to your dreams, but often it comes at the cost of mental and emotional burnout. Social media tells us to always be on, but in reality, we're just overworked and under-rested. This discussion shines a spotlight on the toxic side of hustle culture, particularly through a Namibian lens. We'll dive into how local economic pressures, social media, and work expectations fuel the growing mental health crisis, and most importantly, how we can break the cycle for a healthier balance. I'm Jonas Mbambo alongside Joyce Rukoro, your sign language interpreter. Very good evening and a warm welcome to Situation Critical. Today, we are diving into the highs and lows of hustle culture with two individuals who know the inside out. We have Lisa Matomola, an HR consultant and published author, and she will unpack how hustle culture shapes the workplace. And right next to her, we have Alina Kadhila, a mental health advocate who will share the mental toll of keeping up with societal expectations. Because let's be honest, burning out isn't exactly a life goal. Very good evening to you, ladies, and thank you so much for making time to join us tonight for this very, very important conversation, especially in the month of October, which is recognized as International Mental Health Month. Good evening.
Good evening to the viewers.
Thank you so much for joining us. Lisa, let's perhaps start off with you. Hustle culture, such a word that brings up so many emotions and so many thoughts. But it's a thing that each and every one of us does, I guess, unknowingly sometimes. But talk to us about hustle culture and workplace environments and how it comes about that, you are doing so much without realizing that you're not even having time for yourself.
Thank you very much again for having me. And to come back to the discussion around hustle culture, you find that people are ambitious. When you join the workplace, everybody defines success in a different way. For some, it's accelerating their careers quite quickly. For others, it's overworking themselves. The most common phrase we hear about is burning the oil at night. So that kind of stuff. So you find that people tend to work very hard, and it also goes back to the type of work environment one is in. There are environments or workplaces that are highly competitive. People want to get to the top at a very fast pace. We have career goals that are different. Sometimes we want to compete. If the environment is also very competitive, you find that people tend to invest more. They put more working hours. They work long hours. They rely on caffeine the entire day to stay awake. But when you look at them, it's like they are already done. They deserve to be resting. So it creates that overworking themselves relentlessly and just not stopping working, thinking that they can get promoted or get a better job from a salary perspective, because you find also that some people are underpaid or from a family support. Absolutely. You have a lot of people that rely on you. You are a breadwinner, so over time, I think it's something that maybe we can delve in as well. Absolutely.
Alina, I'd like you to talk to us about, why many of us feel like we're in competition with somebody, and especially when you look at social media, you hear things like, while you're sleeping, other people are working, or somebody would brag about how they only sleep 8 hours a day. No, not even 8 hours, but just 3 of the 24 hours a day. But the rest of that day, they're just grinding. They're not sleeping at all. It makes you wonder, am I also getting the same 24 hours? So what's going on? But why do we constantly feel like we're in competition with each other?
Yeah, I think we are in an era where overworking is basically just glorified. And in so many ways, informal and formal settings. So you find, let's take a 26-year-old young person. They say, okay, I graduated at 20, I already own a vehicle, I already have a property. So you're like, what am I doing wrong, right? So this guy is about my age. I got to have what he's got. So this is already peer pressure. it's already competition, even if they won't acknowledge it, even if I won't acknowledge it. Sometimes you're working so hard, and then if I say sit down and reflect, why does this even matter to you? You might not have that answer. You feel like we're doing things just because everybody's doing it. And now in the time of social media that you just started with, everything is fast. And social media is actually a virtual illusion.
Yeah.
I could be showing just snippets. I could have gone for a test drive, and this is not really my car. And then you were there killing yourself over this. I wish there was a mirror to say, look, I know what you saw, but this person just went to a car showroom, test drived it, and took it right back. And I'm not saying that because that I think everybody doesn't have those things, but we often don't see the process that people go in. You realize that people progress very differently in life, but age, irregardless, we come from different backgrounds. This person had a very good starting background. When they started their careers, their whole money was theirs. I'll give myself as an example. My money was not for buying cars.
Yeah.
We had to go remove the falling sticks at home. So now if I'm comparing with someone whose job was probably to put tiles and interlocks in their house, I'm already failing myself. And that's why I think it's very good that while we are here, all things mental health are touching to a sense of self, to get in touch with you, who you are, and running your own race. Because we find burnout people, overworked people, and these people don't even know it. They think this is how life is supposed to be. In fact, everybody around me has the same exact life. So, yeah.
So whose fault is it that you're overworking yourself? Do we blame the employer, or do we blame the employee for not saying, look, I think I need a break? As a matter of fact, there are people who brag about how many leave days they have. Me, I've got 150 leave days. And you ask yourself, but why don't you go rest? Why don't you take some of those leave days? Because now they're thinking about, when I retire, the leave days are going to be paid. What if you die? What happens then? Those leave days are good for nothing. That money doesn't go with you to the grave. But let's talk about what drives this. Is it the pressure from the employer, or is it the employee themselves that are putting themselves, under that pressure of saying, no, I have to do it? And of course, you did mention one very important fact was that, we come from different families. Some people, the breadwinners, they have 20, 15, people that they have to look after, or even more families that they have to go look after. But give us your thoughts around that.
It's a two-way thing. It can be the employer, it can be the employee. And I'll start from an employer perspective. And it's a reality. During COVID, a lot of companies, they were affected financially, and we don't blame anyone because it's something that no one prepared for. So some companies had to downsize, they had to cut on the number of staff. And regardless of whether you reduce your staff number, the work or the demand is still expected, and that is where a lot of employees found themselves being overworked because there's still work to be done. There are still strategic plans to be
executed,
attained, and that kind of stuff. So because of that missing gap, a lot of employees find themselves doing work for 2 people or 3 people, but at times at low money or the same salary. So that creates that work environment. Secondly, some companies are still very manual-based. Technology, we are living in a very technological advanced world, but you find that some companies are not investing in IT because it's expensive, but technology makes work very effective, efficiency. People get to do it quicker, faster, and people go home early.
People go home for good because of technology.
Yes. And to come to the employee side, you find that for some, of course, they want to please the manager. Sometimes you think when you leave the office at 9, somebody is going to promote you. And sometimes they're not even productive by being there. It's just that you want to prove a point that I'm working long hours. For some, it's just a matter of the fact that you feel maybe I'm not doing enough and I must go beyond and above. But that going beyond and above can cost you your well-being and affect you mentally as well. And there are various reasons that I can touch on, but for some, there are people that are actually addicted to working. People like Elon Musk. And I've read a book in terms of obsessive leadership. So it really talks about there are people that are just, it's like they're married to the work, and no matter what you do for them, if they describe Elon Musk, they say he has compassion for the world, but not for the next person. He sleeps in his factories, and if you work for such a leader, they would want you to also do the same. If we go home at 9, why are you taking lunch? We must work.
Alina, I'd like to talk about mental, wellness. This is when we talk about, mental wellness, it's still a topic that's frowned upon by our people, by people who I mean. When you go to your elders and tell them, the workplace is toxic, and then the younger generation is being blamed, like, what do you mean toxic? Because now you're explaining to somebody who's held a job for 35 years, one job, never quit. They've gone up the ladders and they are telling you, just hold on. It's some of them will even go to the extent of telling you, no, God will never give you a battle that you don't have enough strength to fight with.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding in terms of the generational gap of when we are addressing, mental health issues as young people to our elders? Do they understand it as another way, or how do you read through it?
Okay, there is definitely a generational gap that needs to be bridged by intergenerational conversations and intergenerational education, because, newer generation, including myself, the way we sound, the way we see things, we came in a world of a lot of information that is readily available on our gadgets, on YouTube. One clip is enough for me to even absorb the basics of what is mental health. And when I'm asked, especially on a platform where I feel there's a lot of people from different backgrounds, I want to use the simplest words possible.
Yeah.
So when we are talking mental, I've met so many people who would run just when you say mental. You don't say mental health, you don't say mental illness, they will run. And there will also be those ones that feel like, nah, that has nothing to do with me. It has to get to be that girl I saw in the newspaper. Those people, they might have offended someone, right? They must have, freaking culture.
Yeah.
They touched somebody's thing and somebody bewitched them, or which religion are they? They probably don't pray that hard, and until you realize everybody actually have mental health. Any doctor right now can confirm this. The ones who really studied it. And that's why there are people who specialize 10, 12 years just to become psychiatrists. Those are the specialists that see people when they're being challenged mentally, if now it becomes medical. But before we even get there, everybody's have a mental well-being to take care of.
Yeah.
Everybody. And when we say mental well-being, you see, we are not still saying mental illness. We're saying your mental well-being. And maybe even a better question is, what do we know what constitutes of mental well-being? Simple things like your ability to sleep. You saying you sleep at 2 o'clock worries me, like every night. To wake up at 4 o'clock worries me. You're not getting sleep. You're walking around high on caffeine or high from the fact that you didn't rest. And you could collapse any moment. And that's where World Health Organization particularly says there's no health without mental health. It will affect your physical health. It might start manifesting as headaches, dizziness, you could even pass out, and people, that's why when they go, they really need to do a holistic assessment. And if I was just to say, maybe to help answer this, anyone who could be worried about what this is, walk in a hospital and voluntarily request a mental health screening. I don't know if we are ready to hear what is now. That will tell you what is your level of mental well-being or unwell-being.
Yeah.
They have a few things, even your ability to eat. Do you eat well? Can you keep food down? They monitor those things. It essentially your daily life and how is it supposed to be as opposed to how is it? Can you do simple tasks? Get out of bed easily, and that's why like depression. People fail to do simple things like getting out of bed and washing their face or brushing their teeth. Goes on long enough, this person is visibly, they look like they just don't care about themselves, but the person is actually now becoming very unwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Elisa, I think I read something regarding Simon Sinek. One of the best writers of our generation when it comes to issues like this. And one of the things that he spoke about was, in one of his books, is that people who are in charge of people, you can't lead somebody you don't love. You can't lead somebody you don't care for. So, and this joke just sprung in me. And you remember some people who would call you and be like, hey, buddy, I heard you were out of ICU after the accident. Are you sure you just can't come in like just for a few hours and finish that project?
Yeah.
And then you ask yourself, dude, I just got off an accident. I just got out of ICU. What do you mean? Can I come in for a few hours? Of course, not all employers are like that. But what leads to some individuals not seeing you as a human being, but rather seeing you as a tool and just seeing you as the means to reach that number, for that quarter, so they can proudly say, hey, we reached that target, but at what expense?
So Simon Sinek was one of the authors I read when I left my previous employer. And in People First, I actually quote him. There's a tip that says, employees are people too. And he actually describes and says, when you are a leader, you are like a parent. So you have to look after the people that report to you. So coincidentally, what you just shared yesterday or today, I read on LinkedIn that this lady, she lost her mom, and the only thing her supervisor could ask her was, when are you coming back to the office? and the stories that you share are stories I hear about every day, because I conduct a lot of training for Namibian corporates, and People First is actually based on interactions between employers and employees. So from a corporate bullying perspective, people just not caring about you. And the most greatest quality any leader can have, if we talk about leaders of the 21st century, because the old leaders where you needed a carrot and a stick type of long gone, and that is where People First come in. It's all about creating People First cultures, and it's a global aspect. It's a global topic, movement that is happening. There's an event that I'm attending online next week, or the 28th. It's a People First conference. Leaders across the world talking about this industry, because people are leaving jobs because of this type of situation. I just had a miscarriage. I just lost somebody. I'm telling you about certain stuff, but it's like there's no human in the resources. You say our people are greatest assets, but where is the care? Or a lot of companies have values that are nicely articulated. Our people, we put people first. They matter to us, but the way they treat them is not in line with what they have on their strategic values or that kind of stuff. So it's really sad, but like you said, not everyone is that bad or that inhuman. A lot of companies have realized, because they're losing talent. If I'm being mistreated, and the new generation that is joining, millennials, Alina just mentioned, the Gen Z, we call them AMA 2000.
They don't have loyalty.
They'll leave your laptop now. They will say, please come and take it. So they are not scared, and they also stand up for themselves. They will address you and they will say, don't talk to me like that. So that respect, and that they advocate, they choose employers based on values that align to what they stand for.
Does my job owe me happiness?
I think yes.
How?
I mean, for an average person who works 40 hours a week, you spend at least 60% of your entire productive time at work. It can't simply be the place where you are miserable. So maybe we can even begin to define what is happiness in the workplace. People, I think we have been cutting corners when it comes to this conversation, and flying hands. Like, you think this is your house, eh? Look, let's just leave it. I left my father's house and I came to work. I'm very aware I'm at work. But let's get things straight. When you come in a workplace, if you're working in a big entity, you get a contract and a nice package of policy documents and all this. Every organization at that level had a human resource policy. There's a chapter that speaks about how much you're going to be paid, remuneration on time. which I think most companies are upholding. And by that, they have defined their whole package to you. But there's a chapter where employers owe employees a healthy and safe working environment, which overall impact this employee's well-being, be it whether they're happy, be it whether they're excited about Monday morning, be it whether they're just counting seconds at 5 o'clock, so I can just be out of here, you know. And, you know, there are basically maybe primarily two things that are common when it comes to managing people and giving people something. The people who believe a lot of leadership and even a group of people, let's say employees, for a long time, it has been like, you are a machine, you're here to do work. They even tell you, now people have started coping. They have support groups where they encourage each other. You're not here to make friends, you're here to work and go home. Okay, like, what is wrong there? You are just working, passing by these tables or what, and then going home.
The struggle continues.
You understand? So, and you're like, if you work in a place where you really feel like you just gotta go there, type whatever you gotta do and go home, I'm worried about the whole state of this entity and its people. Then there are people like Lisa who are standing up for people first, people-oriented leadership. I mean, you are leading people. So what is the first pact? Are you just interested in deliverables? Deliverables are important. And people tend to hear that. I said, just babysit these people. Who delivers these deliverables? These people. At what level of productivity are they? And as an employer, it's actually your job to ensure that. And most operations are now based on punishment. When you see someone's productivity drop, you don't do intervention, you don't do those one-on-one sessions that are supposed to happen and really get to the root of why has my employee A, who has been so productive, all of a sudden like this. That is aspects of managing people. If you are trusted with that task, you have to take it upon yourself. I'm sorry that I'm the small girl that has to say this, but another person probably older than me should say it so that it can have the weight that it needs to have. It doesn't change it, unfortunately. People have a lot of ego. People feel like you are just born what, you know, we've been here, but is it working? If I just say, you know, there's a reference study by Deloitte where they actually in the UK did a baseline study for their employees' mental well-being. How many entities actually know what is the state of mental health for my employees? They often have, let's say, a wheelchair-fitted facility to say we are inclusive. But that's just for people with mobility challenges. Does it cater for everybody else? And I think the silence around the issue, people don't want to risk their bread and butter. We are breadwinners. We have bills to pay. And of course, if I say something that might piss off someone, tomorrow I might not have job.
A job, Lisa, you spoke about, you know, having left your job, quit your job. You're very diplomatic in saying you left your job. But being an African child, I know that when you talk about leaving your job, you don't just do it unilaterally. Family meetings must be called, phone calls are made. Jonas has gone crazy here. He says he wants to leave his job. What is going on? Let's pray for him. How did you take that bold decision? What was the tipping point for you? Was it a one-day thing that made you just decide, or was it a culmination of many events that made you decide one day, say, you know what, I can survive without this job. Sure, I got to pay bills. Sure, I got to make ends meet, but I'd rather be in that, you know, that sea of the unknown rather than be in this experience where I am right now. Talk to us a bit about that.
So it was actually October. My former boss called me and they told me, you know, like it was during COVID, like things were not going well in the department, and I was moved to a different department. And I drive my career, so I believe in my career, my business. And you were talking to Alina about happiness, so I believe in waking up and being excited about my job. It's like going on a date with my crush. Yeah. So I asked myself, where do I see myself? What are my plans? And also my purpose, because when I studied industrial psychology, my purpose was to make a difference to Namibian companies, and that is a purpose that I live for every day, to rehumanize workplaces. So it was a very difficult decision, but I didn't have a job offer. I remember my former boss asking me if I had a job, and there were a few adverts, so he kept asking me, are you going where? Then I'm like, I'm not going anywhere.
And how was the family pressure? Did they start blaming you, say, you see now?
I had a title. I was a manager, and I worked for a big firm, a global firm. So, you know, in Katima, they refer to you as your job title. So I'm not Lisa.
Manager. When you go to the family events, doctor, manager.
And I think the money is a lot. So, but I told I sensitized my parents, and I told them about well-being. I told them that I don't want to wake up and go to a job I don't love, because you can love the company, but if you're not happy in your job, then it's going to affect your mental health, your well-being, how you show up. Because I used to show up happy. If I go to a client, I know that I'm going to solve a problem, I'm going to make a difference, and when I do it, there's that job satisfaction. So job satisfaction is very important. It's like running a marathon and getting that medal.
Yeah.
It made a difference. So I sensitized my parents. Of course, some people didn't take it well. There will always be criticism. People will think, why is she struggling? What does she do? Up to now, people still don't understand my job. But that is a topic for another day. But I think for me, what is important is that I took a risk, and I'm able to tell a story that is inspiring other people. And I see other people also leaving jobs without a job offer, not because of my influence, but because people have realized their career is their business. And a great workplace is stunning. Whenever I talk to Namibian employers, Reed Hastings is my reference because he's the founder of Netflix. And at Netflix, they have a culture of freedom and responsibility. And he starts by saying, a great workplace is stunning colleagues. And we want to have workplaces where we feel, I belong here, I am valued in this workplace. This organization actually looks after my well-being. Money is no longer a motivator. People can be influencers on YouTube and they make money. So that is no longer a motivator for other people. And people are also ready to live within their means. They don't need to drive the most expensive car. But what matters is the fact that when I do my job, I do it so well and it doesn't impact my well-being. Because what's the use of going to work? I had a friend of mine and she would tell me, Lisa, the only time I go to a mall is when I have to go fill up groceries. She was just like working long hours. And eventually she had to leave her job, even relocate to another country because was it worth it? Unfortunately not.
Yeah, that deep sigh, I think you wanted to piggyback on what she was saying. Please do share.
Yeah, because, you know, when Lisa talks, she's not just talking. You are there with everything going in the back of my mind. Am I happy? How are my strides when I go to the work? Am I energized? You know, she's talking about making a difference. And for me she kind of touched me a lot because there's going to work or going to a job, where you do a set of things that you're required by your job description, matching your skills, education, and experience. And then there's living your purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many of us, we have a job that matches our purpose, or even how many of us know what is our purpose.
Miles Monroe, yeah.
You know, because you're like, there's nothing, like you don't have to hate what you're doing for you to reflect and see, is this what I'm all destined for? And someone who have a job, I do actually a lot outside of my job, which I think I also am hustling a little too much, but not for money. More like for my purpose. Anyone that has seen me before this interview knows I'm on mental health, I'm on sustainable development goals, I'm on climate action, I'm on water and sanitation to some extent, you know, doing this sustainability, positive citizen leadership. But what I see is that I think I have a passion for the people, so I get to bring in so much people trying to get in everybody's problem, give them solutions, which I think I can, and to a certain extent I can, but I end up overwhelming myself, like the re-putting up of boundaries and dragging myself out of that mode where you are doing something that is your purpose, it's good, but if you do it, you go overboard, you can overdrive yourself straight to burnout. Yeah.
So what you're trying to say is that I can't find fulfillment in my job, or is it a no-size-fits-all type of thing? Maybe Lisa, let's get your view on that. And of course, just underlining that like you said, everyone is running their race. There's no one-size-fits-all type of scenario for each and every one of us. But if I feel that my job is the answer to all my sorrows and troubles, am I being naive? Am I being naive, despite the struggles that I go through coming to work, looking at this not this building, but at a building, and taking a deep sigh, I'm like, I really need this job. Yeah. But I need to go in there. Yeah. And as soon as I go in there, I time my watch so I can know by 1 o'clock, oh, lunch, and then time it again so I can be out at exactly 5.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do on a daily basis, or some of the days, is that I talk to teams. So I do team buildings, but not running around the field. I have serious conversations around serious workplace issues, and I bring teams where they have to open up, creating that psychologically safe environment without anyone being intimidated or scared or feeling that they're going to be punished. So having realities, because we want to create conducive workplaces, but can we talk about the root cause? Because there's always a root cause. So we must do a root cause analysis in terms of what is bringing about this. And I spoke to one team, and when you start this conversation, they are quite hard. I'm Catholic. I always have to start with a sign of the cross because situation is critical. And there was a time I was actually presenting, and I used your picture and the logo of the show. And I was like, because you realize that, and it doesn't matter at what level. I talk to junior staff, they're also feeling affected. I talk to seniors. One of the executives actually told me, Lisa, I never saw a therapist or a psychologist, but now I have started going to seeing a psychologist. So because of these work environments that we have created, and when people ask me, why did I come up with the name Shito? It's a Japanese word. It means people. And I was reading about the Japanese work culture. So 10,000 employees in Japan die because of excessive workload. They overwork themselves, work stress. And for me, that was always a reminder, even for myself. When I feel like I cannot, then I need to pause and take a break. And the word is karoshi. So karoshi is a term where people really, they die. And if you look at Japanese economy, it does well, but somebody is being sacrificed. And there are always labor cases, families suing employers to say, this family member of ours is no longer here, but it's because of the work environment that you have created. So is it really worth it for you to work long hours? And Alina is just talking about how we really want to serve. And I had to turn down some offers myself because sometimes people also get excited. Your name is out there and they want to appoint you to almost every movement. But I realized just serving on 3 things already is too much, because I have other hobbies. I have a niece that I want to spend time with. I have a sister. I have family. I have friends that I must be seeing. You can't spread yourself thin. I can't spread myself, and I need to just have that moment to myself, and also practice what I preach. What is the use of talking about people first, well-being, burnout, and when people meet you, you can't even look at them.
You look like burnout.
So we do what we say.
We do what we say.
Please, before we go on a break, share your thoughts around that fulfillment. Can we really find fulfillment in our job, and do we expect our jobs, to really, fill that void?
I believe the answer is double-sided, because yes, there are really fulfilled people out there, and if you say no, they will probably attack you. Like, they just enjoy. They say, I make the environment clean. Very proud cleaning lady or gentleman.
Yeah.
And as they should. because that harbors a very conducive environment for everybody else to work. And everybody's important, and I like if somebody has that sense of purpose and that I'm the one that makes this happen, that they can tie themselves to either a goal, a strategic, a mandate to say, for there to be pipelines in this country, I designed them, you know. And maybe that's for them is just enough to be fulfilled. But also know, because especially if you are hanging everything fulfilling on a job. And I like to speak to people about the 9 environments of them. It's called the 9 environments of you. As a person, you're at the center, you have all these things. You're spiritual. Lisa just said she's Catholic. You're spiritual, whoever is in that spiritual. Is it God? Is it Allah? Your spiritual, your body, your physical body, then your mind. We are all things mental health now. Then you go to your finances. Even financial health can affect so many areas, you know. So they are 9. I won't finish them. So and then your job is probably just factoring in that one under finances, because this is where your financial security comes from. So I think it will not really be 100% accurate to say all fulfillment is going to come from work. However, it is very important that you don't work in hell.
Ladies, after the break, we'll talk about, who takes care of the leader, who asks the leader, hey, how you doing today? You look a little bit down, Jonas. What's going on? So after the break, we'll be talking about that. And also the people at home who are just joining us, we're talking about mental health and hustle culture. You can give us a call right after the break to share your thoughts around this issue. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Situation Critical. Once again, the topic is all about the hustle and the toxic impact that it has on our mental well-being. Unfortunately, I've just been informed that our phone lines are not working, and we wholeheartedly apologize for that, but please do enjoy this conversation while we are at it. Ladies, before I went on a break, I spoke about who looks after the person who's charged with looking after people. And Simon Sinek, once again, I did read his book a little bit, didn't finish it yet.
So you're a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan. And he talks about simple things like asking an employee, how are you today? And, you made a very good example of you just want to DC someone if they start performing poorly, without asking. But Jonas has been performing fantastically for the past 3 years. What has caused the decline in his performance? Let me ask him, is everything okay at home? Are you going through something? No, Jonas, if you don't want a job, just say it, man. There are a lot of people in the street there who want jobs. Yes. So please don't waste our time. Just say if you don't want to work here. But then again, I also, who is in charge of individuals, am also going through issues. Who do I expect to ask me who's okay? Who's checking up on me? Because now I'm also having an amount of pressure that's coming from above there, from the board or from whoever, to give answers as to why I'm not reaching the target, or why my people under here are not reaching the target. Talk to us a bit about that and how you address it as well.
Working with leaders, top management, I've picked up that they also struggle, especially those in middle management, because when you're a middle manager, you have pressure from the top and pressure from the bottom. So you have to make sure that here people are happy, down here people are also happy, but who looks after you? And that is where being vulnerable is important, and just opening up and when one is not being able to cope. So if I know that I cannot handle stuff, I can rather ask for time off and just say I need to switch off. And in People First, I also encourage people that sometimes, you mentioned in your introduction that people don't take leave. Managers are working from January to December, 365.
Even if they do take leave, they feel guilty. They feel like, things are not moving there.
Yes, and that becomes, because there's also a vacuum from leadership. If you train your people, you can take leave. And I always tell managers that if you train people, you can be somewhere and other people are doing the job. So a lot of people don't take leave because they have not equipped the people that are there. I can take leave and then I know that work can continue. So that business continuity is very, very important. But also just acknowledging as a manager, as a leader, and knowing that right now I'm not myself, because if your well-being is not looked after, you're going to displace it on your employees. Your family are going to feel it. So either when we go home, our partners will know about Jonas at work. They will know about Alina. They will know about all these.
So whenever I say that one's Jonas.
Yes, or people withdraw. We abuse substance. So workplaces actually contribute to some of the social problems that we have. When you knock off, you go to that 3450 place, that has, because that's the only place where you can be yourself. So there's a lot of impact on social substance abuse, or people start to take leave when you're not sick. So that absenteeism.
Just to have an escape.
Yes, because now you can't tell people that I'm not fine, but rather take leave. But there's no harm in actually saying I'm not well, I need to take time off, and recognizing that for as much as I'm a leader, I'm also a human being. And for me to give my best, I need to be at my best. So having that culture whereby we don't glorify that being a leader, you must go home at 9. And when you come in the morning, you start a meeting and say, some of us went at home at 9. People don't know how to delegate. People don't want to do everything themselves because they think somebody else is going to take their job. And unfortunately, I often tell people that for as long as your job is on the structure, there's no restructuring, position is yours. Let's train people so that they can do the work and we can have time off as well. Otherwise, we'll see our pictures in the newspaper that we are no more.
Absolutely. Your thoughts?
Well, I think when we are talking about this in the Namibian context, most organizations, this is now umbrella, whether it's government, non-government, even maybe entrepreneurs, even worse, because you don't have anyone you report to. You are solely the responsibility of this and maybe your family and any other support structure. But in organization, unfortunately, the observation is that it's a top-down. Bottom up.
Bottom up, yeah.
So the channel is, you are here, there's certain things you're not allowed to do or say, no matter how polite, compassionate, and well-intended you are. I don't know how many subordinates can sit with their seniors and ask even personal questions as to why maybe they seemed a little less themselves that morning. But sometimes we know people, over time Jonas is a really cool guy. So today he just went off on everyone. For me, I'm a trained mental health first aider. I try not to even jump to conclusion, because first I assess, is this person okay? Because okay people are not going around doing that to people. Even if they've been doing it for so long, these guys have had a check-in. And now the question is, who does the check-in for who? If you're lucky, your organization has a wellness office, if you're lucky. And if you're lucky, it has the capacity to deal with however many employees that are there. But outside of that, these guys are probably going to have a boardroom where they have coffee or not. So this guy is left. Someone is asking deliverables, someone is asking performance, and then obviously they don't have actually any capacity at all. I think they don't even mean harm when they do this. However, the impact is very harmful. You find it's rather often justified, but we really need to work around working intervention. And I think Lisa mentioned it's creating the culture. Cultures, if we were to say, what is the culture of the specific organization? If that culture is not people-oriented, it won't matter who it is. Because now if you go to the top of a CEO or a minister, who checks in on the minister? Is it the cabinet?
Yeah. True. And talking about culture, I want us to talk a bit about, why some individuals, are over loyal. They give their best, in sickness or in health. They are there. And you can clearly see that the person is not willing. You ask yourself, but why don't you take leave, man? I'm okay. Work has to be done.
Yeah.
But in the same vein, when you are no more, yeah, we'll stand in front of the building, hold a visual, cry a little bit. Jonas was such a nice guy. Have a little picture of you somewhere with a candle. Have a moment of silence and then, okay, guys, let's go back to work.
Yeah.
Just like that, you're gone. But we don't think about it in that way. And is it perhaps also the company's responsibility to say, yo, Lisa, slow down, brah. You look like you need a break. It's okay, go rest.
Yeah.
Work will still continue. What are your thoughts around that? What informs that culture of, just overdoing it?
I think what we also need to recognize and appreciate is that there are people that give more than what we ask for, and that is for the love of this country. There are times when you just feel you have this national duty that you need to give back, and if you don't do it, no one is going to do it, like you said. So it also comes back to two things. In the workplace, there are two types of people. There are those that they always have to do it because other people don't touch me. Huh? You found us here. We died for this country. So, and as a manager, you are also afraid, or you don't want to spend time with that person, because leadership is also, should I waste my time with an employee who's not coming to the party? But there's also another term I talk about, passion exploitation, where top performers are abused, they're exploited because they just feel they have that sense of purpose. I mean, if you work in an environment where something has to be tabled by the minister, you can't say something, you just have to do it because this is a national responsibility that you have to do. But despite all these expectations and demands that come with a sense of purpose, a sense of doing our job, there must be time when people can actually step back and say, I need to take a break. And it goes back again. We need to create places where everybody must be a top performer. So high performance cultures, a lot of companies again in Namibia building high performance cultures. But what does that mean? Regardless of where I am in my job, I must do what is expected of me. As an employee, I earn a salary. In fact, tax refund, I have a responsibility. Yeah. It's a psychological contract. You pay me, I do a job. So if you are paid money, why are you coming to work at 10? Why should we be begging you? Why are you not joining the meeting on time? Why are you having excuses? Why are you not submitting your reports on time? Why should we, that kind of stuff. But also, me opening up as an employee, if I'm struggling, if I need support, I must come and talk, because you know where the danger is. The people that are being exploited, that high performers, they leave. They are coming to Lisa to be coached for jobs, and when they resign, you are left with this person that you don't know what to do, and then we start complaining. We go to HR and we say, HR, the people you hired for me, but HR doesn't make a hiring decision. It's normally the line managers. So we have to create environments where everybody, and Simon Sinek often, not Simon Sinek, but there's an author who talks about the right people with the right skill, getting the right people. In fact, Simon kind of opposes the other author where he talks about we must get the right people on the bus. So this bus has to move. It's a Namibian bus, the Namibian economy, but we need the right people with the right skills, with the right attitude, because if we don't have the right attitude, unfortunately, the bus.
Yeah. And that brings me to what you said was very interesting, and Alina, I think you can just help us answer that question of, we are on this boat. Let's say we are sitting in a Wato. And this Wato is the company. And one of our colleagues is just busy chipping away with a little X, just chipping away. And you know that at some point, the water will start leaking here. What do I do in such an instance as an employee? Yes, you are unhappy, but some of us still want to be here.
Jonas, this is now the part where I use situation critical. Starting from where Lisa was to here, because you realize that actually there's psychological manipulation in all of this. I mean, nobody says it's psychological manipulation, right? I mean, no one wants to be associated with that even, because there's a nice document that say we value people, we value your well-being, family, and everything. And they can even sell you this when they interview you. Here we care about people. Get a sick child. Get sick yourself. You were talking about people asking for a report. I unfortunately have been in that situation where I was on a breathing machine as of yesterday, and people wanted their report. And obviously it's critical, but is it as critical as me collapsing there while compiling that report? And these things, unfortunately, are stories of so many people. Lisa has met these people. Some are probably nodding now if they are by their televisions. It's so critical because, you know, if there's a sense in the back of your mind that if I don't do this, I might be punished. I might be rated bad on my performance score. So psychologically, the subconscious will start waking up how to be relevant, how to be seen as a committed person. In mental health aspects, we have things like absenteeism and presenteeism. Now, absenteeism is what happens when someone really can't go on. Often the doctor intervenes. Often people have vacation days, but I was just on a call with the medical doctor on World Mental Health Day who says, we've seen people coming, they have vacation leave, but they're afraid to take it, so they come to a doctor. You have 100 days, but you need it to be validated by a doctor. You know, and I think while we're here at workplaces, there should be a proper leave management, because people say you have leave, but you just have it. You are not supposed to take it. That's what they're saying, because you cannot be, instead of even be acknowledged as on leave, you are absent, which is two different things. And then people don't want to be absent. This shows that I'm not committed, I'm not a team player. So let me just come here until one day my cough is too much. And so it's very critical, because now most leaves, some of them have to justify. You must now tell, why are you going to Katima? No, my grandmother, you know, in our culture needs cleansing. This is too much personal information, you know. And then, yes, it has to be justified. People actually ask for it, unfortunately. And, you know, I say for employees, it's good to learn, but sometimes people don't like enlightened people. They do pushback because you're too enlightened than everybody else. So I think overall what I'm trying to say is we have a responsibility to really just put people first, because sometimes even the attitude that people develop are coming from somewhere, root causes.
All right. Ladies, I've been informed by my bosses in my ear that time is up, but thank you so much for adding value to this conversation. I'm sure that people at home have taken, you know, one thing or two that they can implement in their life. And like I said, you shared your 2 cents. How they are going to spend it is entirely up to them. But thank you once again.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
And before we go, we always have an African proverb, and our African proverb today goes as follows: to circumcise a leopard is not the problem. The question is who will hold him down. Meaning, it's easy to propose bold ideas, but the real challenge lies in executing them. Much like in Aesop's fable, where the mice suggest putting a bell around the cat's neck to hear him coming. The idea is great, but who will carry it out? The world has plenty of talkers and theorists. What it needs are doers. Be pragmatic and focus on taking action instead of making suggestions. Till next time, remember the tagline: Situation Critical, Minds Philosophical. Peace and love.